10초 남았습니다. 5초 남았습니다. 10초 남았습니다. 5초 남았습니다. 선택할 차례입니다.
Throughout the Chimera Ant arc, it's clear to see how Togashi blurs the lines between good and evil. Humans are depicted as true monsters, while on the other hand, Chimera Ants slowly become more humane. Not too long ago, I saw this image which sparked my interest in how similar Gon's development into an unforgiving beast was to Meruem's transition to a caring, gentle human. After rewatching the arc with this in mind, what I can tell you is that the similar or nearly identical experiences I found between these two was nothing short of stunning. So much so that I can only conclude that this was the intention of the author. In this video, I'm going to cover 4 of the biggest moments in depth, as well as provide a lightning round of smaller moments that may make you view this arc in a completely different light. The first group of scenes set a theme of Gon and Meruem being the antithesis of one another. Gon's second encounter with a Chimera Ant is in the former hideout of Gyro. Kite tells Gon and Killua not to hesitate and to fight to kill. Gon's first strike does little damage, and he recognizes the strength of his opponent. After seemingly defeating Centipede, he's attacked from behind but saved by Kite. And Kite's advice to him is, you must crush the head. In Gon's second encounter, he opts to crush his enemy Baro, but still not destroy the head. He criticizes the ants since they refer to each other as trash. In other words, he justifies his actions because ants don't care for their comrades. Kite, Killua, and Gon then make their way to the Queen's nest, but are stopped by one of the Royal Guard, Pito, the first ant they encounter who can actually use Nen. Gon experiences fear of his opponent's aura, followed by anger that his comrade is injured. Take note of his position as he prepares to fight. Jumping over to Meruem, we see almost the opposite interactions. After being born, he's joined by his royal guard on the hunt for food, which leads him to a nearby village. He dispatches the first 2 humans without hesitation by decapitating them with his tail. He dismisses the strength of his prey, commenting on how they didn't even put up a fight. Disgusted by how they taste, he's offered some advice from Pito, and it's actually the opposite of what Kite told Gon. Dispatch your prey without harming the head. Meruem's attention turns to the little girl in front of him. He follows Pito's advice, stabbing her in the chest, and feasts on her brain. Meruem and the Royal Guard then head towards the palace of the Supreme Leader Diego. There he encounters his first Nen user, one of Diego's quote-unquote Royal Guard. He's filled with excitement and easily kills the guard, and after eating the guard's brain, he releases his aura, standing in a similar pose to Gon, once again filled with excitement. Finally,
오호호.
전투가 시작됩니다.
내가 간다. 엄청나군. 아하. 어허. 이러지 않아도 되는데. 그렇지. 좋아. 폭풍주의보. 물론이지. 내 거야. 그래, 바로 이거야. 감각이었다. 혼이 나를 움직인다. 가자. 좋아하는 티가 너무 났나? 폭풍이 몰려온다. 바람처럼 빠르게. 오호호, 뭔가 시럽이었다. 서로 잘도 생겼다. 한손 돌렸으니 다시 싸우자. 혼이 나를 움직인다. 엄청나군. 신경 쓰지 마. 아직 갈 길이 머니까. 5등급 폭풍이 간다. 뛰나. 좋아. 마른 하늘에 날벼락을 내려주마. 저 멀리 사라져라. 너희를 위한 선물이다. 공격! 너희를 위한 선물이야. 바람처럼 빠르게. 폭풍을 봤으면 피했어야지. 날려버리자.
하부 포탑이 공격받고 있습니다.
하부가 비었다. 내가 간다. 이 잘생긴 친구는
중부 포탑이 공격받고 있습니다.
그렇지. 폭풍의 혼이 더 모이고 있어. 폭풍이 몰아친다. 가자. 참 잘도 생겼다. 바로 그거야. 오호호. 배꼽시계가 울릴 때 마셔야지. 바로 그거야. 가자. 어허. 내가 간다. 저 멀리 사라져라. 좋아, 성장하고 있다. 혼이 나를 움직인다. 좋아. 이 잘생긴 친구는 누구지? 그렇지. 폭풍을 봤으면 피했어야지. 물론이죠.
중부 포탑이 공격받고 있습니다. 중부 포탑이 공격받고 있습니다.
이쪽은 문제 없어. 그래, 바로 이거야. 하부가 비었다. 자, 나중에 마셔야지. 아하!
하부 포탑이 공격받고 있습니다. 레디언트의 구조물이 강화되었습니다.
폭풍이 몰려온다. 너희를 위한 선물이야. 폭풍이 몰아친다. 그거야. 참 잘도 생겼다. 그렇지. 마른 하늘에 날개를 내려주마. 아직 안 되겠어. 신세랑 고기였군.
하부 포탑이 공격받고 있습니다.
폭풍주의보. 오호호. 파죽지세.
중부 포탑이 공격받고 있습니다.
모든 그 폭풍이 간다.
다이어의 구조물이 강화되었습니다.
이연속 처치. 소리나 아니 여기라니까. 제대로 찔러주지. 자, 놀아보자. 마지막까지 싸우리라.
중부 포탑이 공격받고 있습니다. 하부 포탑이 공격받고 있습니다. 중부 포탑이 파괴되었습니다. 하부 포탑이 공격받고 있습니다. 중부 포탑이 공격받고 있습니다. 덕분에 상부 포탑이 파괴되었습니다.
누가 날 불렀어? 집? 아니
중부
여기라니까.
포탑이 공격받고 있습니다.
진짜. 바람처럼 빠르게. 깨졌군. 배꼽시계가 울릴 때 마셔야지.
참 딱하기도 하지.
하하, 이 잘생긴 친구는 누구지? 아, 물론이지. 아직이야. 이 잘생긴 친구는 누구지? 날아가는군.
높게 죽겠다.
살레메네님은 널 믿어주셨지만 난 이런 걸 알아.
다이어의 구조물이 강화되었습니다.
잠깐 휴식이 필요했던 것뿐이야.
하부 포탑이 파괴되었습니다.
아하! 여기야, 여기라. 여기야, 여기라. 죽음을 자초한 거야. 좋아. 난성천시 힘이 많이 기네. 가자. 이쪽이다. 파죽지세.
너고 어떻게 된 거지?
바로 그거야.
레디언트의 구조물이
우리
강화되었습니다.
나를 움직인다.
적군의 하부 포탑이 파괴되었습니다.
가자.
상부 포탑이 공격받고 있습니다.
그렇지.
아이어의 구조물이 강화되었습니다.
해주는구나.
상부 포탑이 공격받고 있습니다. 상부 포탑이 공격받고 있습니다. 상부 포탑이 파괴되었습니다.
아직 안 되겠어. 아직이야. 바람처럼 좋아. 아직 안 되겠어. 아니.
고맙다. 잘 나가고 있었는데 이럴 수가.
내가 간다. 공이 온다고 알려주지 않았던가. 그렇지. 나중에 써야겠다. 아하! หุ่이 나를 움직인다. 마른 하늘에 날벼락을 내려주마. 빨리 가야겠군. 아직 안 되겠어. 가자. 야. 이 잘생긴 친구는 누구지? 너희를 위한 선물이다. 5등급 폭풍이 간다. 여기야. 내가 간다.
하부 포탑이 공격받고 있습니다.
연속 처치.
편할 것 없어.
하부 포탑이 공격받고 있습니다.
바람처럼 빨리. 물론이지.
하부 포탑이 공격받고 있습니다.
뭐 이렇게까지. 좋아. 어허. 바로 그거야. 아, 참 잘도 생겼다. 그렇지. 폭풍이 몰려온다. 이 잘생긴 친구는 누구지? 영광이군.
중부 포탑이 공격받고 있습니다.
여기야. 참 잘도 생겼다. 그래, 바로 이거 여기야.
가죽지세.
소리 줍소. 저 여기야. 자, 그러게 내가 경고했잖아. 어허. 가자. 전제로 마무리한다. 아하. 오호호. 바람처럼 빠르게. 내가 간다.
사부 포탑이 공격받고 있습니다. 넌 신성한 표적이었다. 중부 포탑이 공격받고 있습니다. 다이어의 구조물이 강화되었습니다. 중부 포탑이 공격받고 있습니다. 중부 포탑이 파괴되었습니다.
공격받고 있다. 아니 여기라니까. 바로 그거야. 나는 움직인다. 여기야. 어디라고? 누가 나지 않는 세상이구나. 빨리 가야겠군.
중부 포탑이 파괴되었습니다.
아직이야. 폭풍이 몰아 제대로 찔러주지. 이 잘생긴 친구는 누구지? 자! 좋아! 아니 여기라니까! 아직이야. 아직 안 되겠어.
신속화.
폭풍을 봤으면 피했어야. 너희를 위한 선물이야. 바로 그거야. 아, 참 생겼다. 저 멀리 사라져라. 잠깐 쉬어. 아, 참 잘도 생겼다. 너희를 위한 선물이. 그렇지. 너희를 위한 선물.
이 레디언트의 영웅에게 죽었습니다. 하부 포탑이 공격받고 있습니다. 하부 포탑이 파괴되었습니다.
물론이지. 호호! 조명 좀 받아볼까? 바로 여기야, 여기라. 그래, 바로 이거야.
사족지세.
적군의 상부 포탑이 파괴되었습니다. 하부 포탑이 공격받고 있습니다. 하부 포탑이 공격받고 있습니다.
아직 안 되겠어.
하부 포탑이 파괴되었습니다.
진짜.
아군의 하부 병영이 공격받고 있습니다.
자. 좋아. 공격받고
아군의 하부 병영이 공격받고 있습니다.
바람처럼
하부 병영이 파괴되었습니다. 아군의 하부 병영이 공격받고 있습니다.
빨리 가야겠. 가자. 번개로 마무리한다. 내가 간다. 혼이 나를 움직인다. 자.
그 정도로 끝날 때 착각하지 마라.
가자. 자, 놀아보자.
실한 전사에게 내리는 축복이구나.
혼이 나를 움직인다.
다이어의 구조물이 강화되었습니다.
여기야, 여기라고. 아직 안 되겠어. 아직이야. 여기야, 여기라고.
상부 포탑이 공격받고 있습니다.
공격받고 있다. 오! 잘생긴 친구는 누구지? 물론이지. 야! 야! 어허. 어허. 그렇지. 바람처럼 빠르게. 폭풍이 몰려온다. 하하, 이 잘생긴 친구는 누구지? 폭풍 집. 너희는
상부 포탑이 공격받고 있습니다.
바로 그거야.
상부 포탑이 공격받고 있습니다.
좋아. 내가 간다. 폭풍이 몰아친다. 5등급 폭풍이 간다. 너희를 위한 선물이야. 참 잘도 생겼다. 날려버리자. 자.
상부 포탑이 공격받고 있습니다. 상부 포탑이 공격받고 있습니다. 아군의 중부팀이 공격받고 있습니다. 암살은 자연스러워. 아군의 중부 병영이 공격받고 있습니다. 중부 병영이 파괴되었습니다.
누가 날 불렀어? 이 잘생긴 친구는 누구지? 바이스의 나 공격! 혼이 나를 움직인다. 너희를 위한 선물이야.
하부가 비었다.
상부 포탑이 공격받고 있습니다.
그렇지.
상부 포탑이 공격받고 있습니다. 다이어의 구조물이 강화되었습니다. 상부 포탑이 파괴되었습니다. 네 죽음은 가려진 자매들이 기를 것이다.
지금 왜 웃는 거지?
아군의 하부 병력이 공격받고 있습니다. 하부 병력이 파괴되었습니다. 상부 포탑이 공격받고 있습니다. 중부 포탑이 공격받고 있습니다.
마지막
중부 포탑이 공격받고 있습니다.
제대로 찔러줘. 가자. 참 잘도 생겼다. 그렇지. 참 잘도 생겼다. 너희를 위한 선물. 이쪽은 문제 없어. 내가 간다.
뭔가
어디라고? 참 잘도 생겼다. 혼이 나를 움직인다.
로션이 레디언트의 영웅에게 죽었습니다. 중부 포탑이 공격받고 있습니다. 중부 포탑이 파괴되었습니다. 아군의 상부 병영이 공격받고 있습니다. 파괴되었습니다. 이제 적군의 상급 기술이 생성됩니다.
삼연속 처치.
중국 포탑이 공격받고 있습니다. 중국 포탑이 공격받고 중국 포탑이 파괴되었습니다. 레디언트의 구조물이 강화되었습니다. 고대의 요새 레디언트가 승리했습니다.
Only after killing Diego, he criticizes the remaining humans as they beg for their lives because they've probably never spared an animal they plan to eat. In other words, Meruem is justifying his actions of killing humans because humans don't hesitate to kill other species. Looking at Gon and Meruem's experiences side by side, we begin to see the contrast between the two at the very start of their journey towards self-actualization. The connection between Gon's fights with Knuckle and Meruem's Gungi games with Komugi is an easy-to-miss but immensely real thing. both battle an opponent with greater experience under a different deadline, only to be defeated over and over again. I would argue that this is the biggest turning point for both Gon and Meruem, but I'm getting ahead of myself. The list of correlating events that unfold during their matches is plentiful. Number 1. Before Gon and Meruem face their opponents in a real contest, both of their opponents end up passing out. Gon and Meruem discuss this with their comrades and determine that their opponent is an idiot. Number 2. Victory would mean nothing against an opponent that isn't fighting at full strength. Gon and Meruem both share this feeling, so at one point, they both let their opponents rest, even when victory was within their grasp. Number 3. Poof and Shoot are passive onlookers during Gon and Meruem's trials. Poof sees how Meruem's opponent is changing him and barely holds back his urge to kill her while she's vulnerable. In a contrasting way, Shoot sees Gon as actually having an effect on his opponent, but he can't muster the courage to attack while Gon is vulnerable. Poof and Shoot are both ashamed of their actions in very different ways. Number 4. When Meruem uses the remote concealment technique, his opponent briefly freezes, hesitating to act. But then perfectly counters the king. The king is angered by her hesitation and demands an explanation. In Gon's case, it's clear to see that his opponent has not been using his full strength in each of their matches and is actually helping Gon get stronger. But eventually, Gon comes to the conclusion that his opponent is too soft on him and is angered by his opponent's hesitation. He scolds his opponent for not taking the fight seriously. Number 5. In their final battles, Gon and Meruem are utterly defeated by their opponent due to an identical catalyst, Nen. Knuckle activates his Hatsu for the first time, while Komugi actually awakens her Nen in general for the first time. The most interesting part is what both Gon and Meruem learn about themselves from these final battles. For Gon, he breaks down after Knuckle and Shoot enter the NGL, exclaiming to Killua, "I'm weak. I never knew how frustrating weakness could be." For Meruem, while he acknowledges the strength of his opponent, in Gungi, he realizes that brute strength is the ultimate power. What tremendous strength I must possess. A lot has happened to Gon and Meruem since the last scenes I described. Gon is now determined to defeat Pito by himself. Meruem has learned that humans are worth protecting. When both characters encounter their next opponent, their behavior is not what you would expect. Gon becomes enraged and ready to kill Pito, so much so that he almost forgets that his opponent's death would ruin his chances of saving his dear friend Kite. The monster within him is starting to take over. On the other hand, Meruem becomes completely passive and wants to have a discussion with the man responsible for almost killing Komugi. His human side is becoming dominant. Both of their opponents are driven by a sense of duty to fulfill the orders given to them. Check out how their opponents resist them exactly 3 times and finally strike a deal to help them fulfill their duty. Starting with Gon, he approaches Pito. He becomes enraged at the sight of Dr. Blythe and demands that she move away from Komugi and fight him. Her first act of resistance is to put her hands out, palms up, and beg Gon, please wait. But the monster inside Gon is infuriated. Not persuaded by her plea, he begins to walk towards her. She resists again by saying she'll do anything he wants if he just lets her save Komugi. And Gon is confused by this. Why would she want to save someone? He questions her motives. And her response sends him into a whirlwind of emotions, and he even argues with his friend Killua. Seeing how out of control Gon has become, Pito's final act to prevent a fight is to break her own arm. She offers Gon her other arm and more. He isn't convinced, but luckily Killua reminds him of saving Kite and is able to calm him down. So Gon approaches Pito and the two make a deal. After healing Komugi, Pito will follow Gon to Beijing to help him heal Kite. In Meruem's case, he begins his confrontation with Netero by explaining how he has changed. He still plans to rule the world, but will spare Netero's life. Netero's first act of resistance is to decline the king's offer to only spare his life. He then takes a fighting stance. The king explains his plans further and sits down and invites his opponent closer to have a conversation. Netero resists a second time by activating his Hatsu and striking Meruem with first hand. Meruem comes out unscathed and compliments his opponent's attack, but he sits down again. Confused by the king's willingness to still want to talk things out, he resists a third time by striking with third hand. Once again, Meruem comes out unscathed and sits down for a conversation. He tells Netero that only words will persuade him. As Netero prepares to fight again, he reflects on these words and is able to stop himself. So Netero offers to tell the king his name. Netero wants to make a deal. He offers to tell the king his name if he can make Netero admit defeat. Meruem agrees, sealing the deal, and the two begin their fight. So before we analyze the final transformations of these two characters, let's take a look at some other similar scenes in a quick lightning round. After Kite's fight with Pito, when Gon wakes up, he actually thanks Killua for knocking him out and not helping Kite when he was in danger, thinking they would get in the way. However, Meruem is very upset with Pito that she didn't stop that bird from attacking Komugi even though she knew it was happening due to her powerful En. So in this case, Gon is thankful that his comrade did not help Kite, whereas Meruem is upset that his comrade did not help Komugi. Due to the fragile nature of both of these characters' mental states, Gon and Meruem's comrades keep secrets from them. For example, for Gon, Killua was afraid to tell Gon that Pito was actually healing Komugi. Then, later, he tries to prevent Palm from seeing Gon. Knuckle even decides not to tell Gon how Youpi has changed. On the other hand, after Meruem's resurrection, Poof is constantly lying to the king or hiding the truth, even though the king is aware of it. He's running around trying to kill Komugi, trying to prevent the king from seeing her. Even Youpi joins in on the deception, and he agrees to go and find Pito because he knows how important it will be to talk to her before the king does. After Gon and Killua's infiltration of this country, Killua comes up with an idea to wreak havoc, to disrupt the selection. Gon agrees with it, and he wants to help Killua in his mission, but he's scolded by Killua and told to stay out of it. Similarly, Poof comes up with the idea to speed up the selection, which Meruem is fine with, but wants the Royal Guard to take care of it themselves. Poof continues discussing his plan until Meruem scolds Poof. Meruem decides to make a bet with Komugi on a Gungi match. He later calls off this deal and offers his opponent his left arm as an apology. After Gon kills Pito and her Nen reactivates, she attacks Gon, taking his right arm. This actually makes Gon happy because now he is just like Kite, and he offers his severed arm to his opponent. So at this point, both of these characters, Gon and Meruem, have been through so much, and this is the final breaking point for both of them. The characters were driven by a purpose for almost this entire arc. For Gon, it is to save Kite. For Meruem, to rule over all things. When Gon is told that Kite is already dead, he sinks into a depression and begins to deny the truth. We see him flash back on memories of Kite. But when he comes to grip with reality, he lets the monster inside him take over, determined to crush his enemy. So the final tipping point for him is when he loses his purpose of saving Kite. Meruem's En became so powerful after his resurrection that he can read the emotions of people that are touched by his En. Because of this, he reads Palm's emotions and concludes that he is soon going to die. He has lost his purpose of ruling the world. Even the narrator makes a comment at this point on how human he has become, and that maybe Netero was wrong. During his final moments with Komugi, he realizes that he was actually born to be with her, and we see a nice flashback of their time together. And so, we're going to go ahead and end it there. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. I hope I showed you some things you may not have thought of in your original viewing of this arc. But go ahead and comment below and let me know, do you think it was the intention of the author to put these characters in similar situations and show how they react differently? Or do you think that maybe some of this is coincidence and really it's all about the end result, Meruem becoming human and Gon becoming this monster? And if you enjoyed it, if you don't mind, please drop me a like. Subscribe if you'd like to see more, there's plenty more to come. And if you haven't checked out my Kite theory video, go ahead and check that out as well. Thank you all so much for your support. I will see you all. What's up, my fellow nerds? Welcome to Tales of Nerdia. If you watched my last video, you know I've been studying the Chimera Ant arc in great detail recently. During that time, I noticed some interesting scenes, I researched some characters, and I found a few differences between the manga and the 2011 anime. So I've put together my top 10 things you may not have noticed during the Chimera Ant arc. Hope you enjoy. Number 1. Starting with episode 76 of the anime, we received the second version of the opening song Departure with new animation, as well as a new EP. During the EP, the hunters involved in this arc briefly flash on screen. If you paid close attention to this, you'll see that Kite and Netero are the only characters who have their backs to the audience. It's a subtle foreshadowing of their inevitable deaths. Netero even gives a thumbs up like he's saying goodbye before blasting off into the stars. As Gon, Killua, and Kite sit around the campfire, Kite tells them the story of how he met Jing. Now this story is actually exclusive to the 2011 anime, but I'm going to count it as canon, and we're going to draw some interesting similarities between Kite and Kurama, a character from one of Togashi's previous works, Yu Yu Hakusho. In their original forms, both have similar appearances, and they both used to be thieves. Kurama starts out as a demon, but after a close encounter with death, his weakened spirit drifts to the human world into the womb of a pregnant human, where he is eventually reborn as a red-headed human. Kite starts out as a human who has a close encounter with death or possibly dies, but his aura or memories take shelter in the pregnant chimera ant queen. He is eventually reborn as a red-headed chimera ant. So actually, even if you leave out the fact that they were both thieves, their stories and appearances are extremely similar. In episode 80, Colt and Peggy examine the bodies of ants killed by Pakhal's Nen, and while discussing this new threat, Peggy implies that the humans will try to kill the queen if they learn her whereabouts. Colt is annoyed by this and says that they need to do whatever it takes to protect the queen. So he starts to think to himself for a moment before saying aloud, "I will protect Reina." So this is significant in showing the human side of Colt that still remembers his sister, but it's actually a double entendre, and that's because Reina, in Spanish, literally translates to queen. Many of the chimera ants have interesting dot patterns on their head. The most common patterns I noticed are the 3 dots or the 5 dots, but they do vary a bit. But what are they, or do they have any meaning? After extensive research, I could tell you it has nothing to do with birth order, strength, ranking, or their human memories. However, Reddit user Ben Lemos pointed out to me that these are most likely a leftover trait from their more ant-like ancestors called an ocellus, or a simple eye. A simple eye refers to a type of eye form or optical arrangement that contains a single lens, as opposed to a multi-lensed compound eye. You'll see a wide variety of simple eye designs in arthropods, and they have a lot of novel solutions to help them overcome visual problems and limitations. So it's clear that Togashi was doing his research when creating these chimera ants. Number 5. In a recent interview with Togashi and Kishimoto, the author of Naruto, Togashi stated that he sometimes names characters based on what he's watching on TV when he can't come up with something himself. If that's truly the case, he must have been watching a lot of baseball during this arc. Not only are Knuckle, Shoot, Palm, and Gyro all named after baseball pitches, but we also see Killua, Chitu, and Morel making baseball analogies throughout the arc. In episode 89, when Gon fakes out Knuckle with his Jijanken, Killua compares it to a pitch down the middle that you just have to swing for. In episode 95, after Chitu easily dodges a punch from Knuckle, he compares Knuckle's slow reaction to a batter swinging after a strike has already been called. Finally, Chitu flees from Morel and Knuckle. Knuckle suggests that they chase him down and finish him off since they know his attacks already. Morel lectures him, saying that they may know Chitu's pitches, but that doesn't mean that they can connect the bat with the ball. Number 6. This one is for anime-only fans. Gyro's backstory was handled, I think, really well in the anime, aside from some few key details Madhouse decided to leave out. In the manga, we see Gyro walking down the street, and we're told he's actually in the same town as Gon and Killua, after their first encounter with Knuckle. This is actually when we see his history in the manga. Here's a quote from the Viz translation at the end of Gyro's short little segment. Gyro left town and disappeared without encountering Gon. Whether this proved to be fortunate for either party will not be known until they ultimately meet. So why did Madhouse leave this out? My guess is that it's because they knew it wouldn't be relevant to the anime since they were running out of source material to adapt. Number 7. This one's also for anime-only fans. After the Chimera Ants find out about Nen, we learn that Ramet is an enhancer. And he was a pretty interesting character, and you might have been disappointed that he never develops a Hatsu. However, in the manga, during his fight with Killua, we actually see that he enhances the sharpness of his feathers, turning them into giant blades. And for this one, I cannot think of a reason why Madhouse would leave this out other than it being an oversight. Number 8. In episode 85, after Gon and Killua see Kite's body as Pito's puppet, they join the rest of the hunters on the train back to East Gorto. While they're on the train, Morel and Nov start discussing their thoughts on bringing the two along, and Morel refers to them as grown tigers who can handle their own messes. It's important to note here that in the Viz translation of the manga, he's actually only referring to Gon. Morel says, "There's a tiger in him now." Flash forward now to episode 125, where Pito realizes how dangerous Gon is after he calmly moves up the deadline to her healing Komugi because of Poof's actions. She realizes she's gotta risk her life so that Gon's fangs don't reach the king's throat, and envisions a vicious tiger inside of Gon. It's a great callback to Morel's words on that train ride. Number 9. Now you may have already figured out that Netaro's Hatsu is based off of a real Buddhist divinity by googling just the name of his Hatsu. But the reference doesn't stop with the name and physical features. Really, I could make a whole video about this, but instead I just want to point out 2 pieces of imagery I found interesting. The first is a scene where Netaro's fight with Meruem finally starts. This is a reference to the Lotus Sutra, which is generally accepted to be the earliest literature teaching about the doctrines of this divinity. Some Buddhists believe that when one dies, they are placed in the heart of the lotus by the Guanyin, pardon the pronunciation, and they're then sent to the Western Pure Land. Yet another foreshadowing of Netaro's imminent death. The second scene involves Netaro expressing his thanks for everything that made the meeting of the king possible. He forms his hands into a heart symbol, and this is a reference to the Heart Sutra, which is unique because the sutra is completely dedicated to the Guanyin. Number 10. Things are gonna get a bit dark now. In the beginning of episode 134, the narrator starts by saying humans are far worse than chimera ants. What follows is a series of images and scenes of the horrific history of man. Some of these images are likely inspired by real-world events. For example, the conflict between Japan and the US during World War II. This scene closely resembles the B-29 Superfortress bombers over Japan in 1945. Next up, you have this famous photo taken by Eddie Adams during the Vietnam War. And finally, this last piece reminds me of the brutal beating of Rodney King by police that was caught on home video, followed by the LA riots. So that's it for my top 10. Let me know in the comments section if you
Today, we're going to be counting down 10 facts about Kurapika. This video was suggested by a decent handful of you guys. Some of you have been suggesting this video for almost half a year now. So I'm sorry it took so long to get here, but well, here it is. So thank you to all of you who suggested this video today, and I hope you enjoy because this one is going out to you. Now, before the video begins, I just wanted to quickly note that my pronunciation is god-awful, and I more than likely already mispronounced his name, so I just wanted to apologize for that, and I might mispronounce some things later on. Anyways, guys, make sure to practice your nen, and let's just jump right into it. Number 1. Kurapika was inspired from 2 different characters. The first was Kurama from Togashi's previous manga, Yu Yu Hakusho. Side note, Togashi is the author of Hunter x Hunter if you didn't already know. Anyways, this inspiration comes from many of Kurama's traits, but to name a few, both of them are very intelligent and considered the most intelligent of each series' 4 main characters. Both can manipulate something as a weapon. Kurama with his plants and Kurapika with his chains, and both are prodigies who quickly learn how to master their abilities. The other character that Kurapika was influenced from was the Omu, from Nausicaa of the Valley of the Wind. The main inspiration came from the Omu's eyes, which once they turn red, they go on an absolute rampage, destroying and killing anything in their path. This was implemented into Kurapika with his scarlet eyes. Number 2. Kurapika is the only character in the entire series who falls under two different Nen categories, which is Conjuration and Specialist. However, he can only obtain the Specialist Nen when his eyes turn scarlet. Number 3. Kurapika wore a different outfit than the one he wore during the Hunter exam for the Zoldyck family arc. However, in the 2011 version, he was wearing the same outfit from the Hunter exam for the Zoldyck family arc instead. Number 4. Kurapika was 17 years old at the beginning of the series, and he is currently 19 years old where the series is at right now, and his birthday is April 4th. Number 5. Kurapika wears 2 earrings, although we only ever get to see one throughout the series. In addition to this, I feel it would be a good time to mention that Kurapika is in fact a male character. Now, to some this might seem obvious, but many people have confused Kurapika for a female, especially around the beginning of the series. Number 6. Kurapika is a member of the Kurta clan, which are a group of seemingly normal people. However, when the Kurta become overcome with emotion or anger, their eyes turn scarlet red. Because of this, the Kurta were forced to hide deep in a forest. Now, throughout the story we learn that the Kurta were wiped out by the Phantom Troop, and their eyes were stolen. Because of this, Kurapika's goal is to find and recover all the Scarlet Eyes that were stolen, and to kill every single member of the Phantom Troop as well. We were all in the dark about what exactly happened for quite some time, but on December 17th of 2012, 2 special chapters were released that detailed Kurapika's past. I highly suggest you read it yourself if you haven't already, but I'm going to go over the basics of what went down. So like I already stated, the Kurta clan were hidden deep in a forest, and Kurapika and his friend Pario come across a dying traveler who ended up getting injured and lost in the forest. We learn from this encounter that the Kurta do not speak English and speak a different language entirely. Kurapika and his friend end up hiding this traveler and helping her until she heals, all while they learn how to speak English and learn more about the outside world from her, which they are forbidden to enter. Eventually the traveler heals and leaves the forest. After this, Kurapika studies and takes a test so he can have unrestricted access to the outside world, mainly so he can find a doctor to heal his friend, who he accidentally injured badly in the past. Kurapika ends up passing the test and leaves the village on a quest to find this doctor. However, 6 weeks after Kurapika left, the news about the Kurta massacre spread throughout the world, and it was reported exactly like this. The discovery was made by a female traveler who got lost in the woods. All 128 villagers had been killed. Family members had been forced to sit facing each other, and they had been stabbed, but were still alive before being beheaded. The pureblood members of the Kurta clan all had their eyes gouged out. Those from outside who married into the clan kept their eyes, but their bodies showed considerably more injury. The adult men had many injuries as well, but this was surely evidence of resisting the enemy before being captured. From this, it is hypothesized that the culprits first attacked the clansmen from outside to agitate the pureblood Kurta clansmen, whose eyes would then turn scarlet from grief and anger. They were then beheaded, one by one. It is said that the Kurta's scarlet eyes that arise from anger are the most brilliant shade of red, and command quite a price on the black market. There were many merciless wounds on the bodies of the children as well, and it is thought that the culprits did this to incite the eyes of their parents to turn a more brilliant shade of red. Near the bodies of the massacred, a message believed to be from the culprits was found. "We reject no one, so take nothing from us." Fucking sad and brutal, man. Now, although Kurapika is from the Kurta clan, he has never been shown with his full name. Most fans just refer to him as Kurapika Kurta. And among the 4 main characters, Kurapika is the only one whose last name has not yet been shown. I feel the reason for this is because Kurapika does not want people to know he is part of the Kurta clan, so he doesn't show it. Because he is a Kurta, Kurapika also has the scarlet eyes, as all of us are fully aware, but what exactly do they do and how do they work? Well, when a Kurta becomes enraged or overcome with a different emotion, their eyes turn a bright shade of red or scarlet color. With these eyes, their physical strength also greatly increases to the point where a child could hold their own against 3 adults and easily overpower them. Also, when his eyes turn scarlet, his aura also increases and he becomes a specialist in addition to the conjurer he already is, like we stated earlier. Number 7. Kurapika is 5 foot 7 inches tall or 171 centimeters tall, and he weighs 129.8 pounds or 59 kilograms. Additionally, his blood type is AB. Number 8. There have currently been 3 character popularity polls conducted for the series, and Kurapika has placed second in all 3 of them. In the first poll, he had a total of 13,498 votes. The second, he had 7,176 votes, and the third, he had 3,467 votes. And you might think that him receiving less and less votes is a bad thing, but you have to keep in mind that over the course of these popularity polls, more and more characters have been introduced each time. And even with less and less votes, Kurapika still remains the second most popular character in the series. Number 9. For this fact, we are going to go over all of Kurapika's Nen abilities. Kurapika has conjured 5 different chains that wrap around his fingers, and although not all of them are affected by this, some of these chains are specifically meant to combat and kill the Phantom Troop. Because of this limitation, it makes his abilities much stronger. Each finger has a different ability, but the ability of his index finger chain has yet to be revealed. The Holy Chain, which comes from his thumb, is used to heal many different injuries, and while his eyes are scarlet, he can heal serious injuries in just a matter of seconds. Next is Chain Jail, which comes from his middle finger. Its purpose is to wrap around spiders alone, which restricts their movements, and it also forcefully causes the spider to enter Zetsu, shutting off their aura and preventing the use of Nen abilities. It is only possible to escape from Chain Jail through brute force, although this is near impossible from what we've seen because Uvo, who was the physically strongest spider, was even unable to escape. So I guess you could say that this is just a big middle finger to the spiders.
That has to be the worst joke you've ever made, man. Jesus Christ. You need to warn me next time so I can cover my goddamn ears.
Next is the Dowsing Chain, which is his ring finger. It is used for defensive and offensive purposes, but it can also be used to determine the location of missing individuals, and he can also use this chain to identify if someone is lying. The last chain is his Judgment Chain, which is from his pinky finger. This chain enters the victim's body and wraps around the heart. Kurapika sets 2 conditions, and if the victim violates either one, the chain crushes their heart, which will in turn kill them. It can also only be used while Kurapika's eyes are scarlet, and he can only use it on spiders. If he ends up ever breaking this restriction and using the Judgment Chain on anyone but a spider, it will kill Kurapika instead. And finally, he also has the ability Emperor Time, which is when he becomes a specialist, which basically increases his power, accuracy, and force to 100% in all the Nen categories he can access, making him much, much stronger and deadly. And the moment that you've all been waiting for... Number 10. And for this final fact, we're going to talk about a different series a little bit. Although it may seem obvious to some, I didn't realize this at first either. But Kurapika was actually a huge inspiration for the character Sasuke Uchiha from Naruto, mainly regarding backstory and their eyes. But they also share some personality traits as well. But with their backstories, both of their clans were murdered, and because of that they are seeking revenge on the people or person responsible for it. And regarding their eyes, both can turn red, granting them access to a whole new range of abilities. Obviously, both series have their differences when it comes to abilities and the stories as a whole, but you can definitely see the inspiration is very prominent. And as a fan of both of these series, it was really cool for me to see who Sasuke was derived from. But there you have it everybody, 10 facts about Kurapika. Hopefully you guys enjoy.
What's up, my fellow nerds? Welcome to Tales of Nerdia. If you watched my last video, you know I've been studying the Chimera Ant arc in great detail.
What's up, guys? Welcome to Tales of Nerdia. I wanted to make a quick video because I came home from work just...
What's up, my fellow nerds? Welcome back to Tales of Nerdia. Today, I wanted to theorize about a possible inspiration for one of the most highly respected hunters we've met, Morel. the wild, confident, single-star sea hunter. And I'll also cover a little bit about Nov as well, but let's get right to it. Now you've likely already heard or recognized that Morel's Nen is heavily inspired by rock and roll icons, but let's quickly cover those points just in case you haven't. First, we have Deep Purple, which is named after an English rock band of the same name, and I've seen some people say that the technique Morel uses to stay afloat during his fight with Leol is a reference to one of Deep Purple's famous songs, Smoke on the Water. The secondary name of Deep Purple is Purple Haze, which is also the name of a famous song by Jimi Hendrix. More on that later. Now when fighting Poof, Morel uses Smoky Jail, which is also known as Jailhouse Rock, and this is a famous song by Elvis Presley. All of these references make a lot of sense in my mind and fit the wild attitude of Morel really well. But there's more to the inspiration of Morel than just his Nen. And that is this man, Ramo Nakajima, a respected cult novelist, essayist, copywriter, musician, and actor in Japan. He's pretty much done it all. And after looking into his work as well as some of the events of his personal life, I'm theorizing that Togashi used him as inspiration for Morel and possibly Nov as well. Here is his name written in katakana. And below it, you can see Morel's full name uses the syllables from Ramo's name. Now, in Romanji or English letters, Morel's name is M-O-R-E-L, but it's actually M-O-R-A-U. As you can see, the U at the end of Morel's name is added, and the yellow G was changed to a she by dropping the ten-ten. It's almost a perfect anagram. And this is something that I noticed from the Hunter x Hunter Wikia. So I decided to look into Ramo Nakajima further. Ramo-san, with his long, scraggly hair, is commonly seen wearing his sunglasses indoors, even during television appearances. This is a trait he shares with Morel, who never takes off his sunglasses throughout the entire series, even when he is underwater. Besides Ramo-san's works, which we'll get into shortly, Ramo-san was known for his wild lifestyle and abuse of drugs and alcohol. In 2003, he was actually arrested for marijuana possession. Remember Morel's technique, Purple Haze? Makes you wonder if Morel is smoking tobacco or something a little funkier. But even more interesting is the similarities between Ramo-san's imprisonment and Morel's technique, Smoky Jail. Just the name alone suggests a connection, but there is more to it than that. Ramo-san's sentence was for 5 years, but he was released early after only 10 months with an extended probation period. Now during Morel's fight with Poof, he decides to release Smoky Jail, letting Poof out earlier than planned. The two discuss whether this was a good idea or not, with even the narrator chiming in. It makes me wonder if letting Ramo-san out early was also a bad idea, because upon his release, he started heavily abusing alcohol. Approximately 1 year after his release, after a late night of drinking at a bar, he falls down a staircase. The head injuries he sustained were so severe that he died 11 days later. But even before this incident, his love of alcohol was no secret. After all, one of his most famous novels, Tonight from Every Bar in Town, is about a recovering alcoholic. In Morel's case, we see several references to alcohol, such as this, and let's not forget this line about drinking himself silly. It's also worth noting that during Ramo-san's prison time, he was put in a mental institution and eventually wrote an essay about his trials called The Prison Diet. When I first read about this, I couldn't help thinking of Nov's Hatsu, Fourth Dimensional Condominium. There's plenty details about his Hatsu that are reminiscent of an insane asylum. For instance, the key he holds is handcuffed to his wrist like a prisoner. The classic white walls are reminiscent of the padded rooms we so often see in a mental health facility. The hunters spend a lot of time here preparing for the palace invasion as Nov slowly loses his mind, and since the hunters can't leave until the palace invasion, they stay nourished with what one might compare to a prison diet. Moving past his personal life, let's examine some of Ramossan's work. Now, I will admit it is pretty hard to find an English translation for these, but I was able to get at least a few short summaries of his novels. The first that stood out to me was Ramossan's famous work Butta no Gadara, or The Pigs of Gadara, a fictional novel inspired by a biblical story. The earliest version of this story exists in the Gospel of Mark, described as taking place in the country of Gadarenes, whereas the Gospel of Luke has it set in Gadara. The story goes that Jesus encounters a possessed man and calls on the demon to emerge, demanding to know its name, as part of an exorcism. He finds that the man is possessed by a multitude of demons who give the collective name of Legion. Fearing that Jesus will drive them into an abyss, they beg him to instead send them into a herd of pigs, which he does. The pigs then stampede into a nearby lake and drown. This story reminds me of Morel's fight with Leol, which took place in an underground chapel, so we're already starting to get some religious symbolism to this fight. I would compare Leol's ability to call upon other people's powers to the man in the story being possessed by multiple demons. Morel's final attack that kills Leol looks eerily similar to a menorah, connecting him to Jesus, who was Jewish. And the final similarity would be that Leol's cause of death is drowning, just like the pigs of Gadara. Now, the fictional novel by Ramossan actually takes place in Africa, which one could say is a reference to Morel's fight with Chitu, but again, a good translation is nearly impossible to find. One story that I was able to get a little more detail out of, though, was Ramossan's Mannequin Night, or the Night of Human Models. It's easy to draw comparisons between this story and Nov's mission to set portals within the palace. In Ramossan's Mannequin Night, a boy sneaks into a spooky mansion. As he sneaks around the mansion, he starts to hear the voice of a woman, and eventually finds a body model in the basement, which comes to life. In Nov's case, it is not the voices or the mannequin he fears, but the N of the Chimera ants, and the thought of being turned into a puppet, or their personal plaything. Of course, there could be deeper references in this story, since both Pito and Morel use Nen puppets. And so that's going to wrap up another episode of Tales of Nerdia. Sorry this one took so long to release. Feel free to follow me on Twitter, where I'm going to start posting updates on video progress, teaser images for videos.
What?
Yoshihiro Togashi is a genius. I know that saying that is like saying water is wet, but sometimes you need to sit back and acknowledge greatness. And so I'll say it again. Yoshihiro Togashi is a genius. The famous manga writer responsible for Yu Yu Hakusho and a series near and dear to my heart, Hunter x Hunter, is quite an interesting guy. A lot is made of some of Togashi's interests: his love for video games like Dragon Quest, his messy basement, his passion for board games and bowling, and the fact that he's married to the creator of Sailor Moon. However, I think that one facet of Togashi is over water is wet. Yoshihiro Togashi, Yu Yu Hakusho, and a series
悠々白書悠游白书悠游白书
Is near and dear to my heart, Hunter x Hunter, is quite an interesting guy. A lot is made of some of Togashi's interests, his love for video games like Dragon Quest, his messy basement, his passion for board games and bowling, and the fact that he's married to the creator of Sailor Moon. However, I think that one facet of Togashi is overlooked, his deep knowledge of religious lore. Hunter x Hunter is a series that, while inspired in part by JoJo's Bizarre Adventure and certain video games, is a largely original work. Religious lore. And certain video Hunter is a series that, while inspired in part by JoJo's Bizarre Adventure and certain video games, is a largely original work. At the same time, however, I'm certain that Togashi took inspiration from religions around the world when crafting this story. Hunter x Hunter is absolutely dense and riddled with religious themes and symbolism from many cultures around the world, but this is an aspect of the show that seems to be missed by many. Here, I'm going to talk about one of the most underappreciated aspects of Hunter x Hunter, its basis in religion. This video will have an emphasis on religion-centric symbology, themes, and visual cues that are present throughout both the anime and the manga. Togashi does his utmost to litter the entirety of Hunter x Hunter with little bits of cultural and religious symbolism, both visual and narrative. Here, I'm going to do my best to reveal the vast majority of religious references, so strap in. Let's start off simple. There are several characters throughout Hunter x Hunter, such as Netero, Meruem, and Franklin, who have drooping, elongated earlobes. This is likely a direct reference to Buddhism, as Buddha statues and art portray Buddha as having similarly drooping earlobes. Whilst he was writing the Chimera Ant arc, Togashi also added a not-so-subtle reference to religion on the cover of Volume 28. Not much to add here. The Zodiac Hunters of the Election arc are one of the more blatant references to religion in the series. They are likely a literal homage to the zodiac signs based in astrology. One of the members, Sayu, contains a specific symbol on his shoulders consisting of a crescent moon and a 5-edged star. This is a common Muslim symbol, commonly used on country flags of Muslim countries, and represents both the 5 pillars of Islam and the concept of striving towards a bright future. Krollo as a character is a walking advertisement for both religious and anti-religious ideas, with foundations in Christianity. Not only does he have a cross tattooed on his forehead, but on the back of his jacket is the St. Peter's cross, a symbol for religion. St. Peter was to be crucified, but did not consider himself worthy to die in the same way as Christ. So, he was crucified on an upside-down cross instead. There is a misconceived notion that the St. Peter's cross represents anti-Christianity, but quite the opposite is true. On the other hand, Krollo's last name, Lucilfer, is a nod to Lucifer, who, by Christian teachings, was an angel who was cast down by God and subsequently became Satan or the devil. Staying on the subject of Krollo and the Phantom Troop, there is a parallel to Christianity that the Band of Thieves represents that was by no means an accident. The Phantom Troop is a band of 13, essentially containing 1 leader and 12 apostles. In the story of Jesus, he trusted 12 men to be his closest of allies, his own 12 apostles. The similarities don't stop there, however. In the story of Jesus, he is betrayed and sold out by one of his apostles, Judas. This is basically a direct parallel to how Hisoka functions as a member of the troop. I'm not sure how you can call what Hisoka has done in the past, and is currently doing in the manga, anything but a betrayal to both Krollo and the troop. Though ironically, Krollo mentions the story of Judas during the series specifically, and says that he does not view Judas as a traitor. Additionally, there is the fact that the troop hails from Meteor City, a city for the orphaned and the abandoned, of which the city motto is, "We reject no one, so take nothing from us," which has quite a religious connotation to it. During the York New arc, we see Illumi on his cell phone. Here we can see that his cell phone has the Star of David on it. This shield is a prominent symbol commonly associated with Judaism. Now that we've covered some of the literal symbols from the series, let's take a look at some of the more abstract symbolism with roots in religion and culture. The theme of sacrifice is a constant throughout the series, seen through many characters. This sacrifice in the show is synonymous with ideas based in religions such as Christianity, Judaism, Hinduism, and Buddhism. Now, this is quite a general comparison, I'll admit, and many other series focus on the theme of sacrifice. However, the characters of Netero, Pakunoda, and Neferpito in particular have character arcs that strongly parallel the idea of religious martyrism. However, I'll admit, and many other series focus on Neferpito's sacrifice. However, the characters of Netero, Pakunoda, and Neferpito in particular have character arcs that strongly parallel the idea of religious martyrism. Netero's stunning sacrifice to protect humanity, Pakunoda's sacrifice to provide her troop members with the truth, plus the sacrificial nature of Pito's final moments and the way she protected her king, all bring the nature of sacrifice to an almost sacred level in Hunter x Hunter. I won't talk too much about him, as I am planning a full character analysis video, but Meruem's character arc is full of religious parallels. His birth and the circumstances behind it, his destiny to become the perfect king of the world, the savior, if you will, his eventual enlightenment and realization that not all power is physical, and his realization that what really matters in life is love. I mean, the parallels are so numerous that I don't even know where I would start. The character of Netero is strongly based in Buddhist ideas. His early life was essentially a display of asceticism, which is essentially severe self-discipline. His journey in hermitage led him with constant prayer to his ultimate Nen power, called the 100-type Guanyin Bodhisattva, which in itself is based in religion both visually and conceptually. A bodhisattva is defined as a person who is able to reach nirvana, but delays doing so out of compassion in order to save suffering beings, which can be applied to Netero's story, and is an idea deeply rooted in Mahayana Buddhism. One of the more overlooked characters in Hunter x Hunter, Ikalgo, actually has a strong basis in religious morals as well. Ikalgo's strong reluctance to harm anyone throughout his mission during the castle storming, despite his task's difficulty, was a display of non-violence. Non-violence is the personal practice of being harmless to others under every condition. It comes from the belief that hurting people, animals, or the environment is unnecessary to achieve an outcome, and refers to a general philosophy of restraining from violence due to moral, religious, or spiritual principles. Thanks, Wikipedia. This idea of non-violence is rooted in religions and cultures all over the world, though perhaps most popularly in Hinduism, primarily through the teachings of Mahatma Gandhi. There is a more subtle narrative tool in both Nav and Welfin's character arcs that can be considered very religious. Both of these men are permanently changed after they're struck to their core with the sheer terror and awe of a being truly superior and more powerful than them. It can be strongly argued that Welfin and Nav, through Merum's power and Poof's aura respectively, were struck here by the fear of God, or at least a strong parallel. The meaning of the fear of the Lord has been debated, but most agree that it's the idea of living in awe, respect, or submission to a being more powerful than oneself. Submission is the key word here. After being struck by terror, both Nav and Welfin submit and admit defeat. Pretty strong parallels here. Human life is too long to devote to reproduction, yet too short to devote to learning, in the helix of time. Perhaps that is why humans succumb to desire and seek release. Despite that fact, life is complete with the sun, the land, and poetry. Diego's last words in the series are poetic and inspiring in nature, and display a worldview based in true enlightenment, both a deeply religious theme and one rooted in the philosophy of radical enlightenment, which advocates freedom of expression, individual liberty, and peace of mind. Many times throughout the series, animals are shown to be drawn to truly great hunters, such as Netero, Kite, Knuckle, Jing, and Squala. Several Eastern schools of thought, such as Hinduism, contain religious figures, such as Vishnu or Shiva, that had an affinity with animals as well. Nen itself has bases in religion as well. This power system is very dynamic, but it ultimately revolves around auras. Though they are not mentioned in the Bible and thus are rejected by Christianity, auras themselves find basis in schools of religious and philosophical thought, primarily Eastern religions and more specialized schools of thought such as modern spiritualism. Jing's journey through Hunter x Hunter draws so many parallels with Buddhism that I have trouble believing that there was any other inspiration for Togashi when writing his character. Jing basically takes a leaf out of almost every Pokemon protagonist's dad ever, and decides to leave Gong. He leaves him with family to go and pursue adventure through being a hunter. A situation like this would likely be frowned upon by Western audiences, but Togashi had more Eastern ideas in mind when writing Jing. We see this through the attitude of Gong, who doesn't hate or resent his father for leaving him, but strives to understand him and follow in his footsteps. Jing's story is the template of the Buddha. He disregards familial responsibility, which is part of Buddhist traditions. The Buddha left both his wife and son to seek enlightenment. Eventually, he achieved this and found nirvana, complete liberation. However, in order to do this, one must minimize and sever any external attachments and distractions, which includes familial attachments. In Hunter x Hunter, Jing is on his quest to find nirvana. It is essential to see Jing through an Eastern mindset in order to understand his quest, his philosophy, and Gon's positive admiration for his father. The religious symbols used throughout the story of Hunter x Hunter are plentiful, and many are not without their purpose. While some symbols, such as Ilumi's Star of David, are likely throwaway references, some other ideas tell the audience plenty about the characters if they understand the meaning behind the symbolism. For example, the amount of Buddhist ideas associated with Netero tell the audience plenty about his characterization and integrate with themes prominent in the Chimera Ant arc flawlessly. Certain symbols may just be there for fun, and others can shed some light on some of the deeper aspects of the series. I've definitely missed some symbolism here, so you'll have to forgive me, but the sheer amount of religious references in Hunter x Hunter is absolutely staggering. So here I'll end my examination of the more simple religious references in the series, and get into some more prominent, overarching thematic ideas. The idea of spiritual awakening or rebirth is a theme that is common in many religions throughout the world, and Togashi put a huge emphasis on this theme in Hunter x Hunter, particularly in the Chimera Ant arc. The whole essence of humans being reborn into Chimera Ants literally revolves around the entire idea of rebirth. In the series, we have prominent characters that we have gotten to know and understand reborn into Chimera Ants, adding some emotional impact to their stories. Characters like Kite, Palm, and Colt are all great examples of this. Meruem has a rebirth after the miniature rose incident and undergoes a literal holy communion to aid in his rebirth, eating and drinking with the body and blood of his royal guards to begin anew. Gon also experiences a kind of dark rebirth, or an anti-rebirth, as he recklessly channels all of his rage and lust for revenge to fight with Pito. Rebirth is a big part of the Chimera Ant arc in Hunter x Hunter, and if we expand upon this idea a bit further, we can find even more parallels between this series and religious ideas. This idea of clean slates in Hunter x Hunter expands a bit from instances of rebirth in the series. The idea I'm getting at here is a specific type of rebirth. Let me explain. This idea of clean slates is similar to themes of rebirth, and falls under the umbrella of rebirth, but it's more specific in its thematic meaning and its consequence. In instances throughout the series, Togashi has many characters who decide, for one reason or another, that they want to change or reset their lives or situations. Maybe they want to alter their path, maybe they want to right their wrongs, but for one reason or another, many characters seek a chance to change, to start fresh and begin anew, to right their wrongs, to change their lives, to atone. This is nearly identical to Catholic traditions of reconciliation and confession, in which a person confesses their sins and is cleansed of them, allowing for, you guessed it, a metaphorical clean slate in their life to start from. This series is full of instances of characters trying to start fresh as such, so I'll provide some examples. In the election arc, through Alika's power, Killua is able to give Gon a clean slate. At his climax in the Chimera Ant arc, Gon had gone so far off the deep end that it seemed there was no way back, and that he would be permanently changed. However, here Alika is able to save Gon, and as far as we can tell at this point in the manga, spare him from any consequences that his fight with Pito may have caused. He is given a new chance to start fresh, meet Jing, and go to Whale Island to learn Nen from a different perspective, having learned from his past mistakes. Now, whether or not Alika's power is overpowered, and a bit of sloppy writing from Togashi, is up for debate, but here Gon is undoubtedly given a clean slate, essentially cleansed of any consequence from his dark anti-rebirth. The Koala Man from the Chimera Ant arc is a bit of an enigma. He's definitely one of the more distinct characters through his design and metaphysical debates, though he has little impact on the overall plot. He may seem like a throwaway character, but at the heart of this character is a sad tale about regret, remorse, and redemption. His arc contains plenty of parallels with Catholic reconciliation, and we learn this in his scene with the reborn Kite. Before the koala's death, he was an assassin, with a complete disregard for human life. He retained his memories as a Chimera Ant, and became fascinated with the idea of reincarnation, a concept rooted in Buddhism, Sikhism, and Hinduism. He now believes in the eternal, ever-living soul, an idea that is strongly supported by Abrahamic religions. Eventually, he came to the conclusion that all life is precious. He then started to strongly regret his actions as a cold killer. He remained a killer as a Chimera Ant, efficiently killing any human that crossed his path. However, he did not do this because he wanted to. He did this to spare the humans of any torture that they would otherwise receive at the hands of the other Chimera ants. Koala had killed the girl whose body Kite had been born into in order to spare her pain, but he laments at this fact, saying that he should have killed his fellow Chimera ants who were trying to hurt the girl. He wanted to stop this cycle of bloodshed, but it had become a part of him and his efforts were in vain. He had come to Kite to express this regret and see if the same girl had been reborn again. Eventually, he decides that he wants to kill himself to end this cycle of suffering. However, Kite stops Koala and forbids him to do so. Kite then tells him to begin serving her, or him, I don't know. The point is, for the Koala Man to truly repent for his wrongdoings, he must serve Kite and apologize every day to cleanse his soul. Here, Koala is given a fresh start. His sins aren't erased, but he is given the chance to begin anew and start his journey towards redemption. Taking the Koala Man's sorrow, remorse, and yearning to change into account, this is the cleanest of clean slates that he could have asked for. Not only are the religious parallels clear in terms of the nature of the soul, about confession and atonement, but this is a sentimental tale about redemption. And friendship, and exit known his, and that he wants to change, joy in this purpose. He's ready to leave all of his pains and past sins behind, and is eager to get started in this new journey with his beloved sibling. This development may not be a reset or a clean slate in the strictest sense of the word, but Killua is undoubtedly turning over a new leaf and beginning anew here, leaving his dark past behind him. Colt is a very interesting guy, and essentially some of Togashi's messages about humanity and the soul are displayed in him in character form. Colt has an extremely strong sense of loyalty and duty, inherited from his past life as a child named Kurt. He follows the Queen's orders and commits some pretty evil acts in the beginning of this arc. However, after, he starts to become more complex and begins subconsciously displaying signs from his previous life. He faces moral dilemmas when he senses that the Chimera ants are beginning to plot for themselves. But Colt truly develops when he realizes that his queen is in danger. Here, his sense of loyalty and his duty as a Chimera ant are in conflict. Colt is an ant. Ingrained in him is an ant's honor, a sense of belonging to the colony. It is here where Colt turns his life around. He goes to the hunters for help to save his queen. I can't overstate how big of a deal this is. Colt has stressed throughout his arc that the colony goes first, but here he turns against his brethren. After his queen dies, he vows to completely side with the humans and hunters, and dedicate his life to raising, loving, and protecting the newly born Kite. Here he's turning over a new leaf and changing his ways, vowing to live a life of virtue from this point on, consistent with the ideas of reconciliation. These instances of rebirth and clean slates do have plenty of individual differences between them, but at their core, they all involve a change in some of the characters' lives, leading to a fresh start. Confession and reconciliation are one of the 7 sacred sacraments in Catholic worship. Although not all of these Hunter x Hunter characters are completely cleansed before being given a clean slate, the theme of being given a chance to atone for past sins and begin anew is a constant here. When you really stop to think about it, the amount of real-world religion that is displayed in Hunter x Hunter is astonishing. What's even more astonishing is how underplayed this aspect of the series is. I'm sure that tons of watchers have seen the show and read the manga without realizing how much of Hunter x Hunter is rooted firmly in religious ideas and themes. I know for a fact that most of it went over my head during my first watch. I mean, I suppose there is a chance that all of this could be a wild coincidence, but I somehow doubt it. The sheer amount of depth this series has is truly spectacular and never fails to impress me. What do all of these religious symbols and themes mean? It's hard to say. The themes of rebirth and sacrifice are deeply emotional and personal, and can contribute to basically any story if integrated well, along with being ideas that the audience can truly relate to. The purpose of the symbolism in the show itself is, like I said, a way of adding depth and more gravitas to certain characters and arcs. However, is there more to this symbolism? Perhaps Togashi was trying to communicate a message of harmony or acceptance of all cultures and beliefs through Hunter x Hunter. Perhaps it's just some extra world building. Perhaps he adds it all just for fun. Either way, it's all very interesting. I'm sure that I haven't covered all of the religious references and themes that are in Hunter x Hunter, and if you note any that I've missed, feel free to leave a comment. As always, let me know if you have any topics in anime or video games that you think would make for a decent video. As ever, thank you for watching. Be a reset or a clean slate in the strictest sense of the word,